So if 9/11 was really an inside job, then who are the people inside that did it? Well, we can start by looking at some of the people inside the buildings that were targeted and destroyed on 9/11. In the impact zone of the North Tower was a company called Marsh & McLennan, which at the time was the world's largest insurance brokerage company. One of Marsh's executives was a guy named L. Paul Bremer, who was also the chairman of the Congressional National Commission on Terrorism from 1999 to 2000, and the U.S. Ambassador at Large for Counterterrorism from 1986 to 1989. Instead of going to work on the day of 9/11 and dying inside the towers with hundreds of his employees, Bremer decided to go on MSNBC and tell the world that Osama bin Laden was behind the attacks and possibly Iraq and Iran, and then he demanded
the most severe military response we can come up with.
L. Paul Bremer was called away from Marsh in 2003 to become the Iraq occupation governor, a role he has been widely criticized for. So Bremer not only worked inside the buildings, but had offices directly in the impact zone of the South Tower where Flight 175 would hit. He missed work on 9/11 to give us the official story on national television, and went on to be the Iraq occupation governor. You really can't get more connected to 9/11 than that. Giuliani's sidekick on 9/11 was Police Commissioner Bernard Kerik, who appeared to be coaching some of Rudy's actions that day, keeping him away from the media and even answering questions for him about explosives in the buildings. In fact, Bernard Kerik gave us the first official government pronouncement that no explosives were involved in the destruction of the World Trade Center buildings.
Mayor, based on the fact that the way the buildings collapsed on each other, do you have any reason to believe that there were bombs either on the planes or bombs that were in the buildings on the ground that would cause them to collapse the way they did?
No, there's nothing to indicate that at this time.
What do you think about all these 9/11 conspiracy theorists?
They're retarded. I've heard all this. Listen, I've heard just about everything you could imagine, but it's a little different when you're there. And I've heard all about those secondary explosions. I was under the building, I didn't hear any of that.
Kerik's department was also the same one that found that pristine, completely undamaged hijacker's passport, which survived a plane impact, and Fireball, which destroyed 2 titanium black boxes and 3 towers.
In addition to all the search and rescue work we see, there's also a search for evidence here.
Our primary concern as far as evidence goes is the black box, the data recorders. Maybe some material things that's related to the hijackers. In fact, the passport for one of the hijackers was found some 3 or 4 blocks away.
Yeah. Kerik would later receive a nomination from President Bush to become Director of Homeland Security, which he declined for personal and political reasons, and instead took a job training the Iraqi police force in Iraq alongside L. Paul Bremer. Both men are credited for turning Iraq into the unwinnable quagmire it is today. In February of 2010, Kerik was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison for conspiracy and fraud charges.
A man who was once President Bush's pick to run the Department of Homeland Security has been sent to jail just days before his trial is due to begin on corruption charges. A federal judge has accused Bernard Kerik, the former New York police commissioner, of leaking sealed information to the trustee of Kerik's legal defense fund. The reason, according to the judge, to get into the press in hopes of contaminating witness testimony and tainting the jury pool. Judge Stephen Robinson found probable cause to believe Kerik was in contempt of court and revoked his $500,000 bond.
Unrelated to the crimes of 9/11, unfortunately, but it still goes to show you what kind of person he is. Definitely the kind of person you'd want inside the New York City police force during a staged event like 9/11.
Actually, they're a little bit more sly than that. They didn't deny that there were bombs. They just said, oh, well, we can't confirm that yet. I don't know. Not yet. I don't know yet. Of course, Giuliani's really crafty. He never actually denies the bombs. He always defers to Kerik. He always looks at him or has him step in and answer anytime there are questions. That's plausible deniability.
Mayor, do you know anything about the report about the possible explosives that were found in New Jersey?
Yeah, I think the police commissioner was able to get information about that. I just got a confirmation from the chief of detectives. He's reached out to the FBI. They have confirmed that someone has been stopped in New Jersey, 3 men in a van. However, there was no explosives in the van. All right, they're being held for questioning.
Where in New Jersey?
I can't say yet.
Okay.
Why were they stopped, and why do you think they're connected with this?
We can't tell at this point. It's between the FBI and the Port Authority. We just got the confirmation by phone after I left the last
Were
bridge.
they on the George Washington Bridge as they were heading to?
No, they weren't.
There were rumors
They in
that
the
there were
Meadowlands?
explosives. Where did those rumors come from, or why did that begin to circulate?
I can't tell
Are they in the
you.
Meadowlands, Police Commissioner?
Excuse me?
Are they in the Meadowlands?
It's my understanding, but we haven't confirmed that.
Do we know why they were stopped?
Not yet.
And Kerik says, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's on tape being quoted congratulating the police from preventing another terrorist attack on the George Washington Bridge.
15 minutes ago, Police Commissioner Bernard Kerik was talking about it, telling the mayor about it with a great deal of pride.
This is circumstantial, but Bernard Kerik also received a $260,000 loan, a $250,000 loan, from an Israeli billionaire, Etan Wertheimer, whom he met in Israel in August of 2001. Just circumstantial, but I think it's odd that Bernard Kerik is visiting Israel, meeting with an Israeli billionaire and receiving a $250,000 a month before 9/11 happens.